fully prepared there.
It's the Christmas season. Of course, our countdown to the D-Day, December 25th, 2025, Christmas Day, and a whole lot of activities building up to that day. And of course, so much to talk about in that direction. But one thing I always find funny is the conversation around Dirty December. This is a Gen Z kind of, creation for Christmas celebration. I mean, we know what Christmas represents, particularly in the month of December, but they're trying to use that in a sense to overshadow the essence of Christmas, the meaning of Christmas. All right.
Yes, and I think it's found a way to become a distraction.
Yeah.
The actual message of love and giving that it is, and it's now just let's have fun.
Yeah.
Party.
Yeah. Let's just spoil everywhere and get everywhere. Anyways, just on the side, welcome on board the show TMI on the ITV network. I'm Sonny Duke Okosun. I'd like to also welcome my colleague Chuku Funaya.
Wonderful morning to you, Dr. Sunny G.
Okay, we've got the delectable Messalina from our Lagos Network studio. Messalina, good to have you on the show. How is Christmas build up like in Lagos?
So beautiful morning, Chukumfunaya. I mean, it's smelling already. You can see it already in Lagos. I went out yesterday. I mean, you need to see the crowd. You need to see the traffic. At this time, if you don't leave your house on time, you'll be stuck in traffic. I mean, a lot of people are having fun. Like you said, Dirty December, fun. And it's supposed to be, sharing love, the birth of our Lord Jesus Christ. But now, according to you, Dirty December, the whole Jesus stuff, it's all about party. I mean, we need to have fun, right? As we're celebrating our Lord Jesus Christ, we also need to have fun. In Lagos here, it's already, the Christmas has started. I mean, you go out, you see people, crowd celebrating Christmas, celebrating the birth of Jesus, and it's fun. I mean, few days to Christmas. I can't wait for that day to come. I'm actually excited.
Fantastic. Let's link up with Abuja Network Studio where Joseph is on standby. Is Abuja also looking dirty in the name of Dirty December? Joseph.
Very good morning, Dr. Duke, Marcelina, Chukufuna. When it comes to Abuja, it's always different. It's getting dry. It's becoming a shadow of itself. People are, traveling on a daily basis. That's what it is here in the city. But, well, there's definitely going to be some pocket of celebration. It may not be dirty, but some kind of fun fair in the usual, recreational parks like the Millennium Park, and other parks around. You've seen people hanging around with their family just to celebrate.
Fantastic. I heard Abuja is getting deserted because many people are traveling for the Christmas and the holidays, as it were, and that's because it's a high concentration of civil servants. All right, yeah.
So a lot of people are there for work, and now it's time to just get back home and unwind.
Yeah. Well, we shouldn't take away the fact that Christmas means a lot. Just like Ms. Selina said, well, we need to have fun, but we shouldn't allow the fun to dominate what Christmas is. The essence of Christmas is to celebrate the birth of our Lord Jesus Christ, and of course we shouldn't take away that fact. We shouldn't allow any other thing to distract us. If we're going to have fun, you should have fun in such a way, a manner that you end up in the gutters like we see. All right, people get drunk and do all sort of crazy things. Anyway, that's on the lighter side. So much to talk about on the show today. The president has given a directive to governors to respect the Supreme Court judgment on local government autonomy, and they need to comply. We'll be talking about that much later on the show. And of course, we have many inputs coming in from Abuja Network Studio on the budget for 2026, and then from our Lagos Network Studio on the new tax policy. We're going to have a little bit of comment on that, but let me begin with Joseph from the conversation on the budget. There is some talks that the budget deficit will be funded mutually through more loans, and there have been concerns about that. Joseph.
When it comes to the issue of the budget, of course, we saw that annual ceremony at the joint session of the National Assembly on Friday. A budget of 58 trillion presented. What is expected in terms of revenue, about 34 trillion, and then of course the difference will be taken care of, borrowing and some other forms. But the thing about the budget is, according to the president, is going to address some macroeconomic issues. And when you talk about the economy and you move from micro to macro, it means that you are looking at the market in aggregation, which is to talk about stability of the economy, tackling inflation, and of course growth. So we expect that as the lawmakers will be going into looking at the budget session by session, and perhaps it may be increased, it may be reduced, depending on what they eventually come up with, what is paramount, what people want to see at the end of the day is to open taps in their bedroom and there's water, and it's for people to travel the roads and there are no potholes. People should be able to sleep with both eyes closed without anyone knocking at their door. Of course, if you look at that budget, 9.3% goes to security and defense, which is about over 5 trillion, 5.4 trillion, 5.8 trillion. Yes, I'm sure of that. So if at the end of the day, insecurity is not tackled with that very humongous budget, hunger is not tackled with that humongous budget, and of course people are not sure of traveling and getting to their destination as a result of bad road, then the budget is as dead as so. So we hope that the humongous budget we have will be able to put smiles on the faces of us.
Fantastic. Ms. Selina, the new tax policy is set to take effect from 1st of January 2026, but it looks like that proposal is being blighted by some sort of controversy against the background that there is a discrepancy between what has become the law and what the National Assembly passed. You want to take it off from there with us on the show this morning?
Yeah, the ADC, the former Vice President, Atiku Abubakar, the former Vice President, and Peter Obi, they've alleged that the President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has altered the law. And I mean, it's not a good one, saying after the National Assembly has approved the law that the president altered the law. But the president has dismissed the claim, saying that it wasn't altered. And the quick truth, this raised concerns about the questions, saying that, is it that, are we going to be questioning the legislative integrity at this point? I mean, after the law has been, approved by the National Assembly, the president has altered the law according to Atiku and Obi. But the president dismissed the claim that the way the law, the way the National Assembly has, passed the law, it wasn't altered by him. It has come out to dismiss that claim. I mean, is it because of the forthcoming 2027 election? They are looking for a way to, the opposition party looking for a way to spoil the name of the president, saying that he altered the law. But at the same time, the president came out to say that I didn't alter the law. It was the way the National Assembly approved it. That is how it has been. And a lot of persons are saying that if this is true, are we supposed to be questioning the legislative integrity, executive power, and also all the impacts on ordinary Nigerians and businesses? So basically today we would be talking about that.
Okay, fantastic. I'm a bit concerned about this new tax law with all the issues that it's generating at the moment, particularly the issue of alteration from the transition from the National Assembly to the president, that is the legislature to the executive. There's been some alteration, which is akin to what we see in an electoral process. When election is conducted, as it moves from one stage to another, something happens. So at the end of the day, what was said to have been done at the polling unit is not reflected at the collation center, at the different layers. That's exactly what is playing out now, because Serap is saying, on the grounds that the allegations made by Abdul Samad Dasuki, a member of the House of Representatives from Sokoto, who claimed that he has taken time to read the new tax law, what the Joint National Assembly passed, there is a contradiction. There are some alteration. There are some manipulation. Serap is saying the only way we can take this hook, line, and sinker, there should be some sort of investigation to unravel it. And then we should have the certified true copies of what the Joint National Assembly passed and what was signed by Mr. President. I subscribe to this personally.
It's not, I believe, yes, we all do subscribe to a probe.
Yes.
But a probe of the presidency itself, we just recently, we've seen Nigerians come out to ask for a probe of, the workings of the just resigned head of the regulatory board of NUPRC and the rest, and still we haven't gotten any insights on that.
Yeah.
And now we're coming and saying there's a favoritism of the higher class in the tax bills that were passed by the that were brought out by the president,
yeah,
in contradiction to what the House says. And now we are saying we want a probe.
Yeah.
How possible is that probe going to be? When the issue of corruption has eaten so deep into the fabric of our society.
Well, it's something that we must demand, because government needs to be transparent. Government needs to be accountable to its citizens. When we make these demands, it's our right as a people, as citizens of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, so that we know that we are not being cajoled. Because now there's a global conversation and dimension to all of this discussion, which has to do with that, with the fact that there's a talk that some of the Bretton Woods institutions from the West, they are trying to influence these new tax regimes in African countries so they can pay their debts that have been owing in billions of dollars. And we are seeing a situation wherein more in Nigeria, more loans are being taken. Let me get your buy into this, Joseph, with these whole discussions around is a case of what I ordered versus what I got. That's what the National Assembly is saying, particularly the House of Representatives. Joseph.
To actually unravel, doctor, when you make an order, and of course at the end of the day, if the delivery arrives, you have to check what you placed and what you got. If it is not if it's different, then you can make your case. the National Assembly at this time needs to come out with what they send, a copy of what they send to the president for assent. And then we now compare and see where the gaps are. The one that has been falsified, or, yes. And then you now come out to say, well, this is what we have. What the president has is not what we sent. And then I'm sure Nigerians will be able to continue to, pine on the ongoing discussion. But away from that, we know that across board, government rely on tax and spending. Budget is tax and spending. You tax, you spend on commodities that will reflect on the life and of course and on the economy. In that way, you see that the economy will be booming and there will be full employment. So if there is a discrepancy now when it comes to the issue of this tax, some persons may have seen that it will not favor them. And because it will not favor them, there's an issue already on the ground. But going forward, what we need to do is to ask the National Assembly, the chairman, who is the senior president, or the clerk, can we have a copy of what was sent to the president? And when we have that, we now compare with what the president has, and then from there we can easily get where the gaps are and close it.
Let me get Ms. Selina, your final comment on this, because I know that the conversation is around the National Assembly coming out strong. I understand they set up a committee to look into all of this to see if there's actually discrepancy between what they sent to the executive, Mr. President, for assent before it was gazetted, or it is exactly the same thing. But that can only be unraveled if it's actually, if we go ahead with a probe to ensure that we're not being shortchanged. And this is not the influence of the Bretton Woods institutions from the West to cause Africa countries to make the people so they can pay their debts. Ms. Selina, this is a very serious issue, looking at some of the allegations raised by Serap and other concerned Nigerians, like the vice president, you mentioned it a while ago, and even Peter Obi, who is saying this policy needs to be suspended. But we've seen other statesmen like Ayo Badogun of Nadeko commending the president for this bold move with this new tax policy. You want to add a comment to that before we take our first break?
Yeah, a lot of people are actually in support of tax law. According to World Card, if you this stuff that you brought, you ordered something and they brought out food, you need to raise alarm. Them saying that the tax law approved is not the same thing that the president has said it is. Bring yours or bring mine, then we'll compare and see if it's not the same thing. Then we'll make met. To the right men, the people, we want answer to that. A lot of persons are in support, a lot of persons are not in support. And according to Matiku, some persons are saying that, because they are the opposition party, they would not want to agree to what the president is doing. And also some persons will commend the president. Bring yours and let's bring ours once we have, so we can compare. If it's not the same thing, then we'll know where the problem is coming from. But if it's the same thing, then you can carry with the tax law. Like I said earlier, some persons are in support of this tax law, this new tax law, where a lot of persons are not in support of it. So let's just keep our fingers crossed to see next.
To talk about on the show this lovely Monday morning. Much later, we'll look at the warning coming from NAFDAC about a certain noodles. And that warning came based on some findings, laboratory findings, all the way from France. We'll be talking along those lines much later on the show. And over the weekend, a lot of activities. The Igwe Festival is still very much on course in Benin City. Unfortunately, another statesman, strong politician, talking about Chief Charles Idahosa, aka Charlie Temple, passed on Saturday. May his soul rest in perfect peace. Of course, the big news was the commencement of the Nations Cup in Morocco, Maroc 2025. Super Eagles are getting up. They're not going to the World Cup, so a lot is expected of them from the Nations Cup. But Morocco, host country, with a flying start, 2-0 victory against Comoros Island. All of that will be coming much later on the show. We'll take a break and we'll return. Look at what the papers are saying with Dr. Dan Ikarafo, who is our guest reviewer today. Stay with us on the show. Lovely Monday morning to you.
For one small mechanic workshop for Benin, Ogata ye don dey hustle for long. Money till night, grease go full in hand, sweat go dey in face, but still, life hard. Life.
Omonoba Nedu Ukwakolopolo, Ewai II, Oba of Benin, stepped out majestically with loud crowd to perform the Sotun rites of his late mother, Queen Mother Ioba Omoni Ikoyeme, Ioba Ewai II, who departed this world 49 years ago. Isoton is a traditional rite of the procession in memory of the departed person's spirit in Benin Kingdom. It is usually heralded by public display of the departed person's influence during their sojourn on earth. The display of a human effigy symbolizing the departed royal matriarch was preceded by the Oba of Benin, who led the procession from his palace to the Emotan Shrine at King Square in Benin City, where he offered prayers for the repose of the soul of the Queen Mother, Ioba Ewai II.
Thanks again for rejoining us on the program TMI on the ITV network. Just in time to look at what some of our national dailies are saying. We've got two papers for now. Much later, we hope to be able to look at more. Let's begin with our first port of call on the newspaper review segment, hoping our guest reviewer Dan Ikarafo can join us in the course of the conversation. We have the Nature News, and it says Ghana launches first net zero carbon emissions laboratory. And that's one major issue that is dominating conversation as it relates to global warming and climate change. How can we achieve net zero carbon emissions? And it's been a huge source of concern, with some saying in achieving net zero carbon emissions, we must also look at the human population. We must look at how we can reduce human population. So there's this tangential relationship between the conversation on net zero carbon emissions and depopulation. That seems to be part of the reason why the likes of Donald Trump is not really for climate change and global warming debate, saying it's a hoax, it's something we shouldn't take seriously. But whether I like it or not, some of the issues that relates to climate change and global warming, they are staring at our faces today. I know that in the days of yore, you look forward to the Harmattan, particularly in the south, on the 11th of November. They used to say 11th 11, which means on the 11th day of the 11th month, the Harmattan comes very strong. But I've been looking for Harmattan for the
heat is just is something else. We are all looking for it.
We're looking for it. So this is just like 4 days to Christmas, and Harmattan is nowhere to be seen, particularly in the south. I don't know how it is in the north and all of those places, but in the south, not much of it is being felt at the moment. But let's see how we can continue to engage the conversations on climate change and global warming. Let's go back to the nature news and see more stories that we can bring you there. Okay, that seems to be the major headline on the nature news. Let's move on to our next paper for review. Okay, the Nigerian Tribune.
A major headline there is on the Yuletide, and it says DHQ, police, others deploy more men in strategic locations. Army kills 21 terrorists, intercepts logistics in Borno, and that's on page 3. Also on Nigerian Tribune, there you get to see gridlock on major roads, travelers stranded for hours. Also on Nigerian Tribune, APC to hold national convention in March. And those are some stories on the Nigerian Tribune newspaper.
Yeah, I'm quite interested in some of the stories there, particularly the major headline on what the defense headquarters, the police and other security agencies are doing in strategic locations to forestall any harm or danger this year, because there's been some security reports in that regard, and we hope that they can be more proactive to forestall any challenge security-wise. And talking about gridlocks, there was a particular one I saw over the weekend. I think that was between Kogi State and the Federal Capital Territory. It was crazy. People were there for hours and hours and hours, and that's because of the state of the roads. The roads are comatose. They are in bad state. They are in bad shape. And people
are you sure the Yuletide is not also a contributing factor to that?
Well, if you have good roads, Yuletide or no Yuletide, that won't be much of a problem, because when you have potholes large enough to swallow maybe 10-story buildings and you have all this kind of stuff on roads, you are bound to have this kind of challenge. So we hope that government will match words with action and deal with all of these issues so Nigerians can enjoy traveling, because this is really the peak of traveling. People are going home for Christmas, people are traveling for holidays, and when the roads are in terrible shape, imagine dry season we are in now, this sort of thing is happening. You just imagine what people are actually going through on the roads. In the rainy season, you can say, well, because of the rains, you have floods, you have muds and all of that. But the rains they've reduced drastically, and now people are still going through this kind of harrowing experience. It's uncalled for, and Nigerians are really feeling the heat of what's going on in the country. Okay, that's much we have for you on TMI newspaper review segment. We'll take a short break. When we return, we'll have our panelists joining us from Canada and Benin City as we look at the major issue of local government autonomy. Morrison Ogunbo Ovia is the former chairman of Ovia Southwest Local Government, will be joining us from Canada, and Dr. Osaze Iyoha, a development economist, will also be joining us from Canada, and of course the president of executive of Freedom of Information Council, President Aigboha Esquire, who is an award winner at the 2025 Leadership and Development Awards, who will also be joining us from Benin City to drive that conversation. Please stay with us. We'll be back with you in just a moment.
Richard didn't want... ITV, certainly the best.
The man went out to bring in thugs to come and beat her.
Yeah.
In a situation like that, do you think women would have seen that and still want to speak?
Really, we're talking about. That's what I said. So
that's-
when they bullied her,
Yeah.
if she's not bold enough, she will shut up.
What is your advice for girls out there that are so desperate to be married?
We women, we have to be really intentional about our parenting.
If you know a child is being abused, or you see signs, a bruise or a child, it has to be investigated.
People barely even breathe when they are going for a shrebi and something.
Party.
You have to be
They can't
smart.
sit
If
down.
you see where they are dressing them up or dragging on both sides, you cannot you cannot breathe.
That's what
And
happens.
these women would stay in those events for hours just to keep up with that beauty trend.
It's not healthy.
That's not healthy.
I am Patricia Uremu Gabriels, and we're reaching you live from our Lagos Network studio. Of course, Women in Conversation is a program designed for women to discuss about themselves.
The Ekoko masquerades from Ute village, whose cult is connected with Obaeware and his mother, Elere, appear on this occasion to bless the Oba. Ekoko is a ritual masquerade that dances to please the guests and the Oba.
ITV, certainly the best.
Thank you very much for joining us on the program, Healthy Living. What is the kidney?
The kidney is an excretory organ in the body, which is for metabolism.
Tuberculosis affects many organs in the body, but the common ones it usually affects is the lungs.
Epilepsy is a neurological problem.
Okay.
It is an injury in the brain, which causes someone to begin to convulse, to go into fits.
It is curable, but the cure is a long-term thing.
If you eat well and avoid those risk factors that will make your immunity to be down, then the risk of contracting tuberculosis will be reduced.
If you're healthy, then you're wealthy.
ITV, certainly the best.
The Ekoko masquerades from Ute village, whose cult is connected with Obaeware and his mother, Elere, appear on this occasion to bless the Oba. Ekoko is a ritual masquerade that dances to please the guests and the Oba.
Thanks again for rejoining us on the program TMI on the ITV network. Let's quickly get some perspective on some of the national dailies that we highlighted a while ago with our guest reviewer, Dr. Dan Hawaifo. Look at the Nigerian Tribune. It says, U-Tide, DHQ, police, others deploy more men in strategic locations. Army kills 21 terrorists, intercepts logistics in Borno State. And then, of course, you have gridlock on major roads. Travelers stranded for hours. More on these stories if you got a copy of the Nigerian Tribune, just like we said. And APC said to hold national convention. More other juicy stories you'll find on the Tribune. But let's quickly get Dr. Dan Harafo's perspectives on this in just a moment. Dr. Dan, good to have you join us on this segment.
Yeah, compliment of the season to you and your team. It's a pleasure to be here this. You recall that some years back, during the festivity period is when insecurity becomes a more worrisome issue. For instance, the cases of bombing you had when Boko Haram was terrorizing this country, cases of pickpocket during this period. So, if the police authorities decide to provide more men to secure our lives, is a step in the right direction. We will encourage the police authorities to continue to do the right thing by ensuring that the level of intelligence is higher than what they have been doing, so that this Utah season will have less of crime and people can enjoy their holidays in peace. As for the APC convention, I have not heard anything about state concluding their state conventions or state congresses. So, state congresses have not been conducted. I'm wondering why the talk about national convention when state congresses have not been conducted. Maybe the party will end up with consensus arrangement as is common with this party. Most APC election congresses end up in consensus arrangement, especially at the state level. Probably that is what they will intend to do in this case. We'll wait to see how it plays out in the coming weeks.
Thank you very much, Dr. Dan. We'll just indulge you to stay on as we look at more other issues on our conversation segment of the show, beginning with the issue of local government autonomy following the Supreme Court judgment on that issue. And President Tinubu has called on governors to respect the Supreme Court judgment on local government autonomy. This came from a press release recently. Let's just take a look at this story to set the foundation for this conversation this lovely Monday morning on the show. Ahmed Tinubu has directed state governors to respect Supreme Court judgment. He restated this in administration's commitment to ensuring that there is Supreme Court judgment respect by local government in terms of affirming the financial independence of local government. He wants this to be implemented, and the President made the commitment on Friday night at the 15th National Executive Committee meeting of the All Progressives Congress held at the State House Conference Center in Abuja. According to the President, failure by the governors to work in consonance with the Supreme Court's judgment may force him to take other executive decisions. The Supreme Court has said, give them their money directly. If you wait for my executive order because I have the knife, I have the yam, I will cut it. I'm just being very respectful and understanding with my governors. Otherwise, if you don't start to implement it, fact after fact, you will see your allocation dwindling. End of quote. President Tinubu harped on the need for cohesion within the ruling party. He reminded party leaders that the APC was built on the ideals of progressive politics, broad-based participation, and respect for diversity of opinion. We must continue to be resolute that this democracy that we take in our hands must not fail. We say we are bigger, we are larger and taller, but it should now be in our hearts to be accommodating. That's the only way we can be resilient we must be tolerant, he said. President Tinubu expressed confidence that the unity of purpose, tolerance, and adherence to progressive values, the APC will continue to lead Nigeria towards prosperity and inclusive development. Let's quickly meet our other panelists joining us across the world. We've got Morrison Ogunwubo-Ovia, is a former chairman of Ovia Southwest Local Government Council. He's joining us from Ontario, Canada. Morrison, thank you for joining us on the program.
Thank you, Dr. Sonny Duke Bosun, and greetings to the Edo State.
Okay, we also have Dr. Osaze Iyoha, a development economist, also joining us from Ontario, Canada. Dr. Osaze, thank you for joining us on the program.
Thank you for having me, Dr. Sonny. Good morning.
Okay, we expect President Agbohan, who is the Executive Director of Freedom of Information Council, to join us also virtually from Benin City. If you're there, good to have you join us, Barrister President. Okay, hope you can join us much later. But we've got Dr. Dan also joining this conversation. Let me begin with Morrison Ogunwubo-Ovia. You've been a local government council chairman, and this issue of autonomy of local government has been a major issue, a thorny issue. One expects that with the pronouncement of the Supreme Court and the stance of Mr. President, governors will respect the autonomy of local government and allow them to have access to their funds so they can decide the fate of their councils in terms of development. But we're still seeing the influence of state governors. I'd like to get your perspectives on this as a foundation from our conversation.
Well, thank you very much, Sonny Duke Okosun, for this wonderful opportunity to talk about these very, very critical issues as it concerns the local government administration. First, I must say that during my tenure, we operated more or less autonomy, because when the monies for the local government is sent to the JAC account, we usually have the JAC meeting chaired by His Excellency, the former Deputy Governor of Edo State, Dr. Pius Egberame Odubu, a complete gentleman. We meet at the level of JAC, and every local government is informed about what is due them and what came from the national, what came from Abuja. We were told about it, and we'll see it. And at the end of the day, every local government chairman will go back to his station to implement, all he needed to do. But some governors do not respect that, which is rather unfortunate. And I think the new administration of President Tinubu has taken a greater stride to re-echo his commitment towards creating, local government autonomy. And of course, it's now a policy statement, because the policy court, which is of course the Supreme Court, has already declared that local government autonomy is very key, and that every governor of their various subnational must adhere strictly to the laws. And I think when they do that, it will help. But my own concern is, when you look at the crop of persons who come on board today as chairman of local government, people who cannot actually read very well, people who cannot even write, people who cannot translate, government policy into actionable program, even if the money comes, because they lack the academic capacity, they lack the knowledge of governance. Of course, they will always have problems. So I'm thinking that henceforth, because the next election that is coming, the Edo people must ensure that they elect people that have the intellectual capacity that can drive the policy and programs of the local government, and that can bring up programs that will affect the lives of the people directly. So when you have a local government chairman that is focused, a local government chairman that is educated, a local government chairman that understands the policies and programs of the administration, the vision of the local government, I'm sure something good will come in. Because even if you pay the money directly into the local government account, and the person at the helms of affairs does not have what it takes, I am telling you, there's no way development will come on board. So for me, I think it's a very welcome idea. And I want to also urge all governors across the subnational to ensure that they adhere strictly to what the president has said, and they should also see this as a law now. It's not something that one person will say because he's a governor and he will not want to respect, the rule of law. It is very, very key. I think it's a welcome idea, and I congratulate Mr. President for taking that bold initiative, to give local government the desired autonomy that will enhance, facilitate growth and development in the local government areas.
Thank you very much, Morrison. Let me talk to Dr. Osaze Iyoha. The Supreme Court is the final arbiter, but we've seen some sort of resistance, towards this judgment or order by the Supreme Court. Mr. President is now, coming all out to more or less threaten governors that if they don't comply with the Supreme Court judgment, they shouldn't be surprised that in their allocations, he has the knife, he has the yam, and he will cut it anyhow. What do you make of this stance of Mr. President?
Yeah, thank you so much. I would want to respond to this in twofold. One, I would want to say, is it the president, is it the governors who are not adhering to the judgment? Or is the president or the presidency that is not adhering to the judgment? I would want to read a copy of the judgment that was given by the Supreme Court. Very straightforward. I'll just list 4 straight bullet points. First, it says the local governments are a separate tier of government. This is the judgment of the Supreme Court in 2024, July. It said their funds should not be controlled by governors. It says allocations should go directly to LGAs, not through joint accounts. So it's very straightforward. It was a directive from the Supreme Court. This was July 2024. That's over a year now. It's about a year and 6 months. So it says allocations should go directly to the local government, not through the joint account. So FAC currently is still paid by the federal government, the joint accounts that the states have with JAC, with the local government. So invariably, the federal government is the one that is disobeying the court order, not the state government. So so most times, I've lived so long in Nigeria to get to a position where it's difficult to take our leaders serious when they make comments. Yeah, because it almost looks like a negotiation tactic. If it's a way of bringing those governors who are remaining, who have not decamped to the APC, to use it as negotiation tactics to bring them, because it's straightforward. The Supreme Court said, pay directly to the local government. So why are you still paying to the state governors, and threatening them, in quotes, threatening them that if they don't send it to the local government, you would now use, you don't need an executive order. There's a court judgment that says pay directly to them. So if you are not doing it, you are disobeying the court order. You don't need to threaten. And as I said, it's just policy statement. There's an underlining fact. I would want to go back quickly to the president's statement. In August, the president made a speech on it was well covered that Nigeria had now met its revenue targets for the year. This was August 2025. This was September 2025, so it's very accurate. And they said, and the president, none other than the president, said that we met this target in August, revenue for the year. Just last week, when the Minister of Finance was presenting the budget to the National Assembly, he said that Nigeria has missed on its target for 2020, revenue target for 2025, that we had a revenue target of 40.8 trillion naira, and we're able to only realize 10 trillion naira. So 281% short of meeting our revenue target. 3 months ago, the president said we had met the target a month ago in August. So you see, when you hear policies like this, since when I was growing as a child, we've always heard. So for me, it's a political statement. It's just meant to get something. There's a negotiation behind the scene which we are not aware of. But naturally, that is how it's supposed to be. We are supposed to have local governments control that's how it is in most developed nations, Canada, US, and so on. The local governments control their resources, then pay royalties to the federal government. That's all, simple and straight. So it even encourages the lazy. You know, I remember the last time I was in the studio, I think November 2023, we had this discussion about debts of Nigeria, and I mentioned that states and local governments should be able to control their resources to the extent that, for example, we know them for mango. I mean, during mango season, mango sells as low as 1,500, 2,500 for a basket then. So you go to most of the gutters in New Benin Market, you see mangoes in their torrents, littered the gutter. So a local government, for example, gets mango and specializes in mango juice. Ovia specializes in oil, palm oil. And each local government is creating its resources, gets storage facilities that they can store these mangoes during time of harvest where it's plenty. Then you continue when it's dry season, you unleash those storage and be known for producing mango juice, for example, and exporting. Then you don't even need the federal government, but it's a pattern that we have been used to. Everybody waits for FAC allocations. So it's a negotiation tactic. It's a way for the governors to control the local government chairman, and it's a way for the presidency also. If not, tell me why governors are all migrating to APC. We've heard of, these are not confirmed sources, so I won't want to put it on television, but we know of some. So if the presidency does not have control over these allocations, then you can't get them to come. So in summary, it's all policy statements. I really don't take it seriously. Yeah.
I'll come back to you in just a moment, Dr. Saze. Let me bring Dr. Daniel Ekarafo into this conversation. Dr. Dan, do you subscribe to some insinuations in some quarters that this resistance we are seeing from governors, it's largely because if this autonomy is fully implemented as pronounced by the Supreme Court and of course supported by Mr. President, that will weaken the powers of the state governors? That's probably the reason why we are seeing this reluctance. Looks like we've lost Dr. Dan, but let me get your take now, since you're live on the screen. Morrison Ogunobovia, what do you make of what I just asked as it relates to governors' resistance being predicated on being weakened, their powers being weakened, if this autonomy is fully complied with?
Well, the truth of the matter is, before now, the governors, usurp the opportunities of the local government, and of course, also dabble into the financial coffers of local government, because they control Jack. Are you getting me? And as at that time, they determine what goes to the local government. But during our tenure, we're lucky with the kind of leadership we had. When the money comes into Jack, the Jack meeting is held, and you see the figure that comes into your local government directly. And so we are fortunate, but other states, we're not fortunate the way we were. And so the governors of those states were so much in control, and they were misusing the opportunity. But to the question you asked, I think the law is the law, and nobody's above the law. The Supreme Court, which is the highest court of the land, has already declared the autonomy for local governments, right? Now, and the president has also given a standing order that any subnational government that refuse to implement the needful will be done. Well, I want the president to stamp his foot on that and ensure that he goes real far with regards to taking serious actions against any governor that decide to dabble or tamper with the local government funds. The local government needs the fund for development. They need these funds for, meeting up with social responsibility and welfare for the people within the local government. Because every kobo matters that will help to enhance development within the local government areas. Now, if this money is tampered then it simply means that the right amount that is due the local government will not get to the local government. And to the local government chairman, like I said, we need a more responsive people to take charge of this local government. The money can come directly from FAC into the local government coffers. If you do not have local government chairmen that have what it takes, I'm telling you, the effect of that money will not be felt. The dividends of democracy will not be achieved. The people will not see development because those at the helms of affairs in the local government will not do the needful. What is the needful? We're talking about infrastructure, putting up structures that will help the welfare of the people, education, good health, good roads, and of course, like my colleague said, let's take Ovia Southwest now. We grow a lot of pineapple. We're also good in oil palm. We have other things that we are endowed with. I think at this level, considering the humongous resources that gets to the local government now, the local government chairman should be seen doing the right thing, putting up structures, infrastructures that will help, to develop the local government. And very key, they should not say because a project is not initiated by them that they should not conclude it. Sonny Duke, your crew and waka about whatever then went to Ovia Southwest and they saw the gigantic new Ovia Southwest secretariat that I started. It's a 2-floor building as big as that of Oredo, right? We did the first floor. It's just for them to do the second floor and finish the secretariat so that they will have a befitting secretariat. But nobody wants to continue with that because they are not the ones who initiated it. So if you do not have a local government chairman that is focused, resourceful, educated, that can understand policies and programs of government, that can translate it into actionable program that will affect the lives of the people of the local government, I'm telling you, even if the money is taken from central bank to them into their office, they will still not do anything. So I want to appeal that subnational government must obey the orders of the courts. Subnational government must be seen doing the right thing. And Mr. President should go real hard on any subnational government that refuses to meet with the policies as agreed and passed by the Supreme Court.
Thank you very much, Comrade Morrison Ogunbovia. We'll take a short break. When we return, much more is coming on this conversation on the Supreme Court judgment on local government autonomy and Mr. President's stance. Stay with us on TMI on the ITV network.
Some days, there comes the Ugemobo Festival, which the Oba celebrates outside the palace gate. A pavilion is built of red cloth where rites are performed to drive away all evil spirits still unsatisfied by the year's sacrifices. The Ugemobo Festival is to commemorate an event in Benin history which dates back to 1504 AD.
Yari, yari. Ọba àtọ́pẹ́. Yari, yari.
Much obliged to have you join us again on the program TMI on the ITV network. Let's get the perspectives of President Aigbohan Esquire, Executive Director of Freedom of Information Council, joining this conversation. Barrister Aigbohan, thanks again for your time with us on the show. We hope you're able to establish your connection properly so we can get your inputs into our discussion. Now, the issue of local government autonomy is there, but there are concerns that the bigger problem is the quality of personnel, or the quality of personalities that come into the chairmanship position at the local government level. But do we really need Mr. President's directive to action the Supreme Court judgment, or is this just politics, as some of our analysts have advanced in the course of the conversation so far before you join us?
Thank you, Mr. Senabu. Thank you, Mr. I think the President's directive for action on the autonomy judgment of the Supreme Court is just to let them know that it's not in support of deviance publicly. That's the point the President made with that solid instruction to the governors. And on the issue, whether the quality of persons at the local government should determine whether a judgment should be enforced, is quite ridiculous, because even at the state level, you could tell some governors who ought to be not even qualified to be a personal assistant to local government itself, local government chairman themselves. So the quality of personality that will be at the local government level should not be a condition precedent for autonomy to strike. It is a system, and the system must be followed as attributed by the Supreme Court. And also very importantly, is that the revenue, like some of the commentators have identified, the revenue to local government is quite huge. And then if you remove it from state allocations, the state government becomes like an AIG in a state. Take, for instance, a police issue. You report it to the state commissioner of police. The AIG to superintend a Delta state, Edo state, and Bayelsa state. That means that the AIG doesn't really have an administrative say, except there is a dispute as to ongoing investigation. So the AIG better put like a rubber stamp in a particular state, supervising 3 states in its purview. So by the time you implement critically and practically the local government autonomy and decision of the Supreme Court, you are rendering the state governor per se as just like an AIG of the police. It's just there supervising a local government and not having to take any administrative decisions on the local government, except there is an issue arising. So that is what the state governors do not want to become. They want to control the money. They want to decide what happened in local government, and they want to use local government funds to fix the state and some local government to give an impression that the state is working. That's the issue. So by the time they are submitting their budget, like the budget of Edo State submitted, what actually budget of local government that they have gathered together and examine the money that they are going to get and begin to say, this is what I'm going to do in Edo State, and particularly Ego, Uredo, and Mbaka. Which of course means is that local government money that we give to them will be taken by the state to run those projects. That's what is happening. So the rubber stamp nature of what the subnational state government will become is what they don't want to become. So what is important is that the president have made a point and said, I will direct FAC to pay directly to this local government if you do not follow the Supreme Court decision. And that, in a large extent, is not political. It's a point to say that I disassociate from you. Because while he was a state governor, he tried to implement that and created even more local government than he meant. So and he was able to succeed in it because he has so many revenue drive. He can get money from some companies around and run the state. So, but the states are largely dependent on park allocation to the local government. So they don't have so much revenue, so much commercial nature of the state for them to be able to run the state independently.
Fantastic. Let's get you on board, Dr. Saze Iyoha. This year particularly, or since the present government of Bola Ahmed Tinubu came on board with the removal of fuel subsidy, we are told that subnational state governors are getting more monies from the federal allocation, that is FAC. We're also told that local governments are also getting more allocation in terms of resources. But unfortunately, if you want to take a critical look at the resources and then you merge it with the level of development, we can't say they are at par. Does this concern you as we advocate for the complete, comprehensive, robust autonomy of local government councils?
Of course, it concerns me. And to be very honest, I'm not sure I've said this before, but that was one of the reasons why I took a leave, though temporarily, because of the fuel subsidy removal. I was a crusader of leaving the fuel subsidy removal. Everybody who knows me knows that was always my stand. I always felt that it was a way to cheat Nigerians again, because I always told my friends the only thing that Nigerians were gaining from our government was that fuel subsidy. They were not providing roads. We were providing our roads. We were providing our security. We were taking our children to we're paying. So we were providing everything for ourselves. The only thing we were gaining was fuel subsidy. And each of the presidential candidates said they wanted to remove fuel subsidy. And immediately they removed it in June. I still have the clips. I said that it was going to be. I remember on one clip I was on one program I was on Business Rendezvous. I said that Nigerians would nearly eat sand, because I knew what it was going to be. And I knew on various platforms, I always said it, that these people just want to take this money and enrich themselves. It was just to circulate. There was not going to be additional hospitals, additional roads. It was just, I've been long in the country to know the trajectory, how these things are going to. So I was listening to a senator. He was speaking in Osun State. He was telling the people that as at today, that there is no senator that's getting less than 1 billion naira. It's on clip. I could send the YouTube link to you. That there's no senator in the Federal Republic of Nigeria today that is getting less than 1 billion naira as constituency allowance. That before fuel subsidy was removed, that the highest each senator was getting was 200 million naira. Highest, that's highest, the highest ranking senator from the highest state. They give constituency according to various factors, the population, the trouble in your constituency. If you have lots of kidnapping, lots of Boko Haram, insecurity, the highest. So the highest was 200 million. Now, none is getting less than 1 billion. So we have 109 senators, and we have 360 House of Assembly representative members. So altogether, 109 plus 360, that's in the region of over 400 times 1 billion each. State governments have gotten more than 100%, about 300% of what they used to get before. What has changed? Which additional airport has been built? Which additional hospital has been built? Which additional road has been built? It has just been they've just transferred money from the people to government. So we are in the game. It's just unfortunate that Nigerians would always have to learn lessons the hard way. I remember on the day it was removed, about 3 or 4 of us came to front of GT at Ekenwa. At Uselu Shell to come and protest. We're begging people come up. No, they said it's in the best interest. So that I really don't like to talk about fuel subsidy removal, because it's a very emotional issue for me. It's just the poor masses that I sorry for. The elites who canvass for it to be removed, everybody has gone to the corner and nobody is making a statement. Then back to the local government allocation something. It's like talking from two sides of your mouth. The president himself, who has said that is going to, he has a problem. He's angry with the fact that local governments are not getting direct allocation. It's still the same president who is withholding Osun State's local government allocations. He has refused to give them for the last 6 or so months. The same president who is canvassing this. And as I've said before, it's just like crying wolf. It's just like playing to the gallery. That's all the president is doing. Because the Supreme Court judgment is straightforward. Pay directly to local government. That was in July 2004. This is December. So 18 months later, you are still playing to the gallery. You are still saying that you will stop. So it's kind of ridiculous. It's just, so that's why I say in all its politics, there's an underlining. It's either because elections are coming now, so they want to now start playing to the people's mind. Yeah, he wants to play to tell us what we want to hear. It's either because of elections, or there are 1 or 2 governors that they are trying to and impliedly talk to, that if you don't do, would come after you. And so it's still all politics. So, but for the fuel subsidy removal, it's not a surprise. In Nigeria, no politician was going to remove subsidy to build hospitals for us. So if Nigerians fell for that flattery, then it's unfortunate. Yeah.
Morrissey, let me get you on board and talk about this seeming double speaking by Mr. President. It's on record that the President, through the Attorney General and Minister of Justice, Fagbemi SAN, instituted this case and took it up to the Supreme Court and got the judgment. The same Mr. President is calling on the governors now to respect this judgment by ensuring that money goes directly to the local government. But we are aware that these monies are coming from the federal government and it still passes through states before it gets to the local government. If the president is serious about the autonomy as he wants us to believe, why is this money passing through the states to local government? Why don't we pay this money directly to the local government? That's on the one hand. The president, we are told, like Dr. Yoha alleged a few minutes ago, that local government funds for Osun State, they are being withheld for whatever reason. I mean, this is political to some analysts. What do you make of these, double standards, this double speaking on this issue of local government autonomy?
Well, Sonny Duke, before now, I remember when I was really vibrant and articulate in this struggle. You know my history. 97, 98, I was the national president of NANS Senate. At the self-succession bid, we were very, very vocal. We fought against the military junta. We were detained and later released. We criticized government. Even before I joined politics, I shout, I say whatever thing I want to say, not until I became local government chairman. And I knew that it is easy for you to talk. When you are not given the opportunity, you see it differently entirely. You know my history when it comes to struggle. But when I get into this, when I won my election, I became local government chairman, you see people who you have not seen for over 20 years. For the fact that you just assume office, they go reach out to my mom. They want to penetrate my mom to reach out to me because they want one favor or the other. People can talk. That's the beauty of democracy. Let everybody express what he wants to say. I want to say something to you. There are procedures in government. There are processes. The president has just come out to say, look, subnational government, if you refuse to follow the process as prescribed by the law, as passed by the Supreme Court, then your allocation will be affected, right? Oh my God.
And make that amend and reconnect with Morrissey Ogunwobo, who was apparently surprised with the change in the video structure in the course of our conversation. But let's quickly look at, link up with Barrister President Aigboha. We're here now. How do you think we can wriggle ourselves out of this logjam. Mr. President, sincere in this directive when he is instrumental to the withholding of local government funds in Osun State, and these funds are still being sent directly to through states to local government. Why don't you just do away with all of these barriers, as it were?
Thank you. I think the dispute in Osun State actually starts with the legitimacy of who is the chairman or not, and the legitimacy question is before a court of law. So if a decision has not been given on who is supposed to be the local government chairman, as it were, I do not think it's right for funds to be disbursed to an authority on that question. So that's for that. So that does not undermine the effort of the president to have first and foremost approached the court of law to ask the Supreme Court to determine whether or not the constitution is not clear on the allocation of local government funds. Having done that, I think Nigerians should be able to compliment him for that. And enforcing the decision itself, the subnational government are resisting it. He has gathered them once again and said, if you don't follow the decision, I will instruct FARC to do the needful. I think it's just been procedural, because to even go to the Supreme Court at the first instance, he could have even avoided it and just go straight and instruct FARC to do the needful. But he needed to ask the court of law to interpret it, to be very sure of what the constitution has said. And he needed now to allow the subnational government to exercise their discretion to do the needful. And he has told them, they fail to do the needful, I will, by myself, write to FARC to assign money to each local government and give you the remaining balance as a state government. And I think we should learn to applaud success. We should learn to applaud good decisions and criticize it. The reason is because there must be a clear-cut dichotomy between failure and success. So somebody succeeds in a team, you tell you have done well. If you face in a team, you tell him you have not done well, also not done well in this team. But if you don't know how to even differentiate it, there's a problem. Because what the president have done is a good gesture. No president have done that for you to instruct you to the general or the federation to go and approach the court of law to interpret it. And haven't done that. What is his own? Are state government not supposed to comply? Well, the state government themselves are saying they are complying. They are still reducing local government allocations, which information I've also got into him through security reports. And they said that, oh, this thing cannot continue. If you don't do the needful, I would by myself or my instruction as a fact to begin to send money to various local government. That haven't been said. What is citizen role in ensuring that local government gets this allocation? Because government have their own role. We as citizens also have our own separate role to enforce compliance to the Supreme Court decisions. We must begin to harass the government freedom of information requests to know what projects are they doing, how much is getting to them, what have they not done, what debts are they owing. We must begin to ask questions on our local government leadership, because we cannot expect the president on his own to also go and ask local government what they have gotten and what they are doing with the resources that they have. So we all must take responsibility. The president have done his own. Citizens must also rise up to begin to harass local government's chairman to know what allocations they are getting and how they are assigning these resources.
Thank you very much, Barrister President Igbok, and thank you for your perspective. Let me see if we can link up with Morrison. I had a technical problem some few minutes back, and we've not been able to reconnect with him. But let me get a final take from Dr. Usaze Iyoha. Osun State is a very peculiar case because there's a legitimacy question about leadership in the local government. You want to take it up from there, as Barrister President Igbok, said a while ago.
Yes. So I used to say that I just wish Nigerian government or Nigerian politicians generally could appreciate Nigerians, because they have the easiest people in the world to govern. I mean, if they were probably governing citizens of other countries, I don't want to mention, developed countries and I don't want to use words that try to demean Nigerians, but I mean, if they were governing citizens of other countries that question, I'm not sure they would be getting, because they are very lucky, they get the goodwill of Nigeria. You see Nigerian citizens defending clear violations. Look, I remember this Supreme Court judgment. I know some people will not want to agree. This Supreme Court, the whole case, when the Minister of Justice, Fagbemi, took the case to court, it was a rush decision. It was just following the Rivers State election then, if we can remember. I've been following the news very well. It was when Fubara, the governor, conducted his election, which Wike did not want to hold because Fubara wanted to quickly do it. He breached some of the whatever, and he went and insisted on swearing in local government chairman. Then the federal government went to court. Within few days, they came out with a judgment. That judgment was mainly to witch hunt Fubara. That's my opinion. And that was the general opinion there. And it was so that funds will not be released to local government in Rivers to strangle Fubara. And it was all part of the things that led to his removal. When the funds leading to local governments were strangled from Fubara, Fubara became weak. Then when that did not work, the House of Assembly members decamped. When that did not work, the state. So it was that judgment was just mainly focused on Rivers State. So that is why when it, so that is why after 18 months' time, the president has still not implemented. He is the one disobeying the Supreme Court judgment. It's not the governor. It's just like your father has told you, a child, that do this. Then you now say, if you don't do this, I will do this. You have given, the Supreme Court has given you an instruction to do, but because that judgment was a judgment of exigency, just to hit something, which that's most of so it had achieved its aim. So now it was no longer useful. So the president has not used it. So there is another, I still insist that it's politics. There's another underlining. The Osun State, which you asked me, it was also a case. Osun State one is also peculiar to the Rivers State situation. There was the Accord Party. The governor Adeleke was having problems with getting his candidates on PDP. So what did he do? He quickly pushed all of them to Accord Party, just exactly what was done in Rivers State, just so that he can have his people, because he was being strangulated in his party. So the local government chairman contested on that Accord Party. So it did not favor what the federal government and the other wanted, because he was being looted to come to APC. He refused. So it's still politics to strangle him. There's not this legitimacy we are talking about. Do you remember in Rivers State when the sole administrator was sworn in by the president, the same local government that had legitimacy issues, the local government funds was released to them, and election was only conducted few weeks before this sole administrator left. He spent 6 months there. For 4 months, the same local government legitimacy issue, which one of our colleagues has just mentioned that had legitimacy issue, the federal government was releasing allocations to them because they now had a sole administrator that was doing their bidding. 4 or 5 months, even when there was no proper election, the same critical committee, the local government, the president was releasing allocations to them. Then a month after, just before election, so it's just the same situation in Osun State, but you were releasing funds when you now had an administrator. So as I said, ballpoints, the judgment, Supreme Court then was exigency. It was just Fubara was the target. They got the judgment. So it had achieved its purpose. So there was no implementation. Pay directly to local government, you did not. You kept paying to the governors. Then now there's something that has to be done. They are underlining, they are speaking to some people through some languages, and now we are revisiting the issue again. So I think, as I said, just like it's in Nigeria, it's all politics again. The people will always suffer when the politicians have played their games. If not, you don't need to speak English. Just take this money, tell this CBN, pay the money directly to local government. But as our former local government chairman has said, which I alluded to, he says there are politics. People when you get into power, you understand what it means to be in power. Yes, that they go through your mom, they go through. So that's, at the end of the day, we are talking about political will. And that's what differentiates LDCs, less developed economies, from developed economy, because political will is always lacking. So in summary, I say it's politics. Thank you so much.
We're just gearing up to link up with our Abuja Network studio, but just before then, let's get Barrister President Agbohan's perspectives. You talked about citizens' role in ensuring this proper accountability, especially at the local government level? How do we drive this from the perspective of the Freedom of Information Act, which you've been a strong advocate of? Okay, I was hoping to have Barrister President Agboha join this part of the conversation before we connect with Morrison Ogunobovia. Is Barrister Agboha still there?
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Please go ahead.
I'm on, yes. I've just said, I said the local government have not gotten a fair share of the use of FOI. State government have gotten the federal government, so there need to be more attention on local government. And that's one way that citizens can show their public participation in government governance and government processes. You see, a lot of citizens will tell you that if they were in House of Assembly or whatever position they have had, they would have been able to ensure that there's good governance at the local government level. We think that everyone cannot be there. It is only Freedom of Information Act that gives you a power that you can use, even when you are not voted into government. You can request for any records. You can get involved in any meetings of government. You can ask government to account to you as individual without you writing to EFCC or ICPC. You can ensure that you put government on their toes. So local government need to have these hits on them. There's not much FOI at the local government level. That's why you can see a whole lot of nuisance value, not usage of funds and all that. So the citizen must enroll themselves to be involved in participating governance easily with the use of the FOI.
Mr. President, let's get a final word from Morrison Ogunobovia. Just quickly anchor the point you were making before that technical glitch so we can call it a wrap and link up with our Abuja Network Studio. Morrison.
Yeah, thank you very much, Sonny Duke. You see, the truth of the matter, what I was trying to conclude on was that Mr. President has already made that pronouncement. Let's look at it from when this pronouncement is made now. And when there are lacunas or when those pronouncements are not effectively carried out, that is when we'll begin to say that that statement is political. Barrister Agbo, the president of whatever the association we talked about, the second to the last speaker, he said, if the president was not willing to make this an effective process, he wouldn't bother to go to the Supreme Court. He went to the Supreme Court now because he's very sure that anyone that tried to go against the laws as stipulated by the law will face the consequence through his allocation. So I also want to use this opportunity to call on the subnational government. They should obey the Supreme Court's judgment. And they should also listen to the marching order of Mr. President. Release funds to the local government directly and let the local government carry out their job effectively as expected.
All right. Thank you very much. Thank you, gentlemen, for your time. Morrison Ogunobovia and Dr. Sazay Yoha joining us all the way from Ontario, Canada. And, of course, Barrister President Agboha joining us virtually from Benin. So thank you for your time and the perspective that you share with us on the show. Kadri is on standby from Abuja Network Studio on the 2026 budget proposal. Kadri is over to you.
Thank you so very much, Dr. Duke, for that very beautiful discussion. Very, very interesting. Okay, quickly in Abuja, we are going to be looking at the budget presentation that was done last week, Friday, by President Bola Tinubu to the joint session of the National Assembly. He calls it the budget of resilient budget of prosperity, and of course a renewed resilience of 58 trillion naira. And of course we have our guest online, is the former chairman of IPAC and Chief Tain. I don't know where he is now, whether Labour Party or ADC. A very good morning to you, Chane Peter.
Good morning.
All right, quickly, that you have followed the budget presentation and you have criticism concerning the budget. Let's get more concerning the budget and then we'll take it from there.
For me, it's just not just criticism. is the fact that I see some of the decisions that the president, put in the 20th budget, and when we look at the cycle of the 3 budgets he has presented so far, you see all the tiny lines of where the budget has failed. You can see that what he presented this time, we're going to be having to, our revenue projection for the 2026 budget is around 34 trillion, and the deficit will look at between 24 trillion naira and 24 trillion. That means that is the money we'll be looking at to be able to borrow, to balance the process of making sure that we meet up to the expectation of the budget. And if you look at that from another angle, that they have put ambitious 1.8 barrel per day, with what they are going to be pumping. If you look at the statistics for what they have been able to do, despite spending 17.5 trillion naira on pipeline security, which covers about 3 of our subsidy payment before the removal. You will be surprised that we could not pump more than between 1.4, 1.5 million barrels per day. The highest we had was in mid-2025, where we had 1.7 million barrels per day. So, and these are also things that are, go along with fluctuations. Since our major dependence is on one monoproduct, which is the crude. So there are also international things that will affect it. You look at, so if prices drop, and you look at the price they are also projecting, they are looking at about 64 to 65 dollar per barrel. So these are the challenges. If anything drops and affect this, it will affect our ability to meet up with this expectation. And for me, I don't even think that the budget is the issue. Because in the previous budget in 2023-2024, the president also promised to till about 500,000 hectares of land, and which he has not tilled 1 kilometer, one square meter of land. And in another budget for ahead of 2026, he's promising 1 million hectares. So there has never been any time I see him meeting up and respecting the promises or the projection he has given, or following up with the due diligence to be able to deliver on those promises. So this expectation too for me, I'm cautiously optimistic to see he has been in office. The president have done things that were not appropriated for, which is against the Appropriation Act and against our process of public bridge. The repeal of the Buhari has spent over 600 billion naira on it that he is doing now was not appropriated for. The Ekpe Expressway, there was no appropriation for it. The Calabar Coastal Highway, there is no public appropriation. The International Conference Center, 39 billion naira, there's no appropriation act for it. It did not pass through the table of the National Assembly. So the private job today of the Obasanjo era, the one he used to go to Bauchi, Bruno, and other places as we speak to you, is a private jet from the Obasanjo era. So going ahead to buy a private jet for 150 billion, it was even a waste of initial. So, and there was no appropriation for such expenditure. So I don't think that this ritual makes any difference.
Okay, now you call it rituals. It's something that must be done. Otherwise, the lawmakers will say you have not followed the institution, and so see some old the arms of government, the legislature, and then the executive. I'm going to look at.
Okay, sorry. So, I'm sorry to interject you. I just mentioned budget that through the lawmaker. I've never been able to get about this our lawmaker. I think what they are doing now is quick pro quo. You rub my back, I rub your back. Now, I mentioned 5 expenditure. Humongous expenditure that never passed through the National Assembly. I just mentioned it to you. So why I don't think the budget no longer has to be. It's no longer as how they call it eye-popping investigation that lawmaker used to carry before the 10th Assembly came on board. So this is what I clearly stated, that forget the 10th Assembly, Nigerians must be able to make the president is following the promises made. In previous budget presentation in 2024, promises of the level. You know, so these are just my concern. I'm sorry to interject. You can.
No, it's okay. It's good. You clear some of these issues, and of course, they are watching. If anything you say is on the contrary, we are sure that they will definitely react. But let's look at this budget. You know, according to allocation, if you look at defense and security, is gulping about 9.3 trillion of the total budget. That's 5.41 trillion naira. Now we have had budget allocated to security for as long as we know. At the end of the day, can we say that it actually fulfilled the purpose for which these allocations are made? This one, very, very huge. It is the biggest of all allocations as per sectoral allocation. What do you make of it?
For security, our security has deteriorated, and any budget to security, our problem is how the implementation will go. We spend more than that after the appropriated budget in 2024 when NNPC brought out its audited account. Let's say NNPC is a private entity run by corporate rules and regulations. But we must try to tailor their activity towards the national budget or national expenditure. Because let's say if you can't have a sector who we are solely dependent on, will now come and spend 17.5 trillion for pipeline security. So if you are spending 5.1 trillion, it's not up to what was spent for the pipeline security in 2024 as to NNPC. But I think I focus more because be able to see these resources that NN pouring into less pit hole that we do not know which people are being. For more indication, the Nigerian Navy is not truly in control of our waterways. So we must be able to sit down with direct, open mind to say who are the people who are giving this 17.5 trillion to, and we are talking of 5.1 trillion for official security issues. So if we don't balance that, if 17.5 trillion was put into agriculture, more people will have jobs. There will be more byproduct coming out of the investment in agriculture. Poverty will reduce, and when poverty reduces, the 139 million people that are pushing to because of the hasty, impulsive, or harsh and already put together policy of the president from subsidy remover to the reversing of the economy and every other thing that was at once that affected the pocket of the ordinary man, and would have been able to bring that to the full benefit of the people. And at the end of the day, they will take more people out of poverty. This current hunger and pain that is going on in this country, that is a young when it comes to it's very critical.
Yeah, we have question concerning defense and security. It's real to some person. If you say in that, they believe that before now, to defense. Defense and security. What does it mean? Is that the Ministry of Defense to get the sum allocated 5.1? Does it mean that the security now is not really explained? Of course, you have said there are party manning our oil pipeline and other private security that some persons may not know. So in this perception, offense, this is on the
commander-in-chief, it could have been better and break it down. Maybe he's trying to look at other paramilitary that could not be captured under the defense, how they call it, budget, direct budget. But it should have been properly, the line item should have been properly specified, so that people can know what goes to who.
Exactly.
Include civil defense, include other people to those that budget. We should know how much is going to civil defense. We should know how much that is going to forest guards. We should know how much that will go to police. So this is a critical thing that we need to do. When you like I said, when obesity is the end spend mark for budget allocation, you will know aspect how that and eventually lead to a best management of public resources. So we need a line item that is clear, that is not shadowed by some kind of hurriedly put together line item. So clearly, I have a problem. I look at how we meet up with the when we spend about 15.5 trillion in debt servicing. A huge part of our revenue generation. So it is clear that we need to sit down. That the president needs to sit down with more other professionals to see how budget will be tailored in a way that will be the general masses. Because an elitist budget presentation will not tell on the public, who constitute the large majority of the population. Because budget must be tailored in a way that at the end of the day, the people can say that they are better off. Because as we speak to session, are they better off? These are the questions. They are not. Because the budget and the figures being measured are not trickling down to the ordinary man on the street.
Okay, now let me take you one last question on this defense and security. That took the biggest chunk of that, and we need to really look at it critically so that we know if that decision by the budget and planning of advice
but also boosting the morals of soldiers and giving them better morale, because the morale of the soldier can even make do the work of that, because that will also push that. I've been noticing for the police. I have a better access.
The Oba of Benin added a colorful mood to the year's celebration as he walks round the city center amidst cheers.
And you know, when it comes to education, there has been this much talk about 50% allocation when it comes to the Abuja Declaration of 2001 that allocated to health. But this is really not so. It's a far cry from the Abuja Declaration. It's about 4% of the total budget. Do you think with this we can fix what we need to fix in our health facilities and, of course, reverse medical tourism?
They can't fix it. There's so much deficit in our medical system. When you look at the federal medical centers, national medical centers, all these places are underfunded, and it's affecting it. I'm mentioning the leaves. And it's affecting the whole expenditure of our healthcare sector. More money must be approved for that to be able to meet up with the Abuja Declaration.
What about for education? It has TED Fund. TED Fund usually gets some money from the federal allocation for the upgrading of tertiary institution, and also has now about 3.52 trillion naira allocated to it. Can we see with this kind of amount allocated, the graduate will leave school with something to add to the economy?
Yeah, you see all these other line items. There's no enough money being put here because we need an educational system that will, be at par with international educational, infrastructures in other countries where people can, learn with technology and also. I've been in school in the last 10 years of my life. You go to some of the university, you can't sit on their seat. They don't have conducive learning environment. They are all, you can't stay there for an hour. So this does not encourage foreign students, because my master's, my PhD, for the years I stayed, I did not see a single foreign student.
Hello?
So there's a challenge.
Okay, so I must thank you for your time with us on the program this morning, Chief Ame.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. All right, the discussion has been with Chieftain of IPAC. He was the former IPAC chairman, Chief Peter Ame. We have looked at the 2026 budget proposal. We hope that some of the areas, the gateway revenues, the Nigerian custom, the FIRS, and of course the oil sector, the NNPCL now will be able to give the 34.4 trillion that is expected as revenue to fund the 58 trillion naira budget. So we'll take a quick break. When we come back, it shall be time with the Lagos Network studio for continuation of the program. Stay with us.
Many thanks for staying with us. We're still on CMI this morning on ITV from our Lagos Network studio. I am Marcelina Unko, and our guest this beautiful morning that will be helping us analyze today's topic is Mr. Mohammed Kabiru. He is a political analyst. Hello, good morning.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for coming. Merry Christmas in advance.
Merry Christmas. Thank you.
Okay, today we turn a focus to the new tax law policy. Tax tension are rising in Nigeria as the African Democratic Congress, the ADC, calls for an immediate halt to the newly gazetted 2025 tax laws. The party alleged that the key provision in the laws were altered after approval by the National Assembly without consent, without debate, and public notice. They said it was altered by the presidency. And if true, this raised serious concerns, serious questions about legislative integrity, executive power, and the impact on ordinary Nigerians and also businesses. Today, we examine the allegation of government response and what also the controversy could mean for Nigerians' tax system and democracy. And we saw that the presidency has dismissed claims saying that no changes were made outside the established legal and legislative process. And also implementation still scheduled for January 1st, 2026, according to the presidency. I mean, a lot of presidents are in support of this new tax law, while a lot of presidents are not in support. And 7 members have been established by the House of Representatives to investigate claimed discrepancies between the bills passed and the visions gazetted. Lawmakers from both parties have called for transparency and also clarity. And also multiple media outlets at this point report that various APC statements and opposition voices are uniting around the view that the tax law should be suspended pending an investigation in full legislative review. Mr. Mohammed Kabiru, I quickly want to ask this. How might this alleged changes, because the ADC, Peter Obi and Atiku at this point, they said that the presidency altered the law, that it was not how it was passed by the National Assembly. So how might this alleged changes, especially provisions on enforcement, affect ordinary Nigerians and businesses?
Okay. Thank you very much for having me. And I think the first thing I will say about the ADC's allegation is the ADC is practically playing opposition. That is the first thing. That is their job, right? To put the current government into check. And oppositions sometimes would raise issues that matters, and sometimes they will raise issues where it doesn't exist. The presidency and the House of Representatives and the other house have insisted that there is nothing that has been inserted outside the legal framework of passing the law. However, ADC is still insisting. What ADC needs to do is to bring out evidence, clear evidence for people to actually see that this actually exists. Now, how does it affect the ordinary citizens? If we want to look at the content of the recently passed tax law, ordinary citizens are mostly not affected, because the current tax law has exempted people who earn, the people who earn below 800,000 annually from the tax, from tax obligations, right? You know, the previous law was just 300,000, but now it has been increased to 800,000, which if we have any ordinary citizens, that means it doesn't affect them. Even small businesses are not affected in this way because the revenue has been increased to 50 million, less than or equal to 50 million, and from the previous 25 million, which was also good. So what I see is that ADC is trying to play opposition and trying to raise issues, either true or false. They need to bring out the proof. But for the ordinary citizen, as far as I'm concerned, especially with the framework of what we see and what we've been able to read, barring any kind of implementation as the date has been proposed, I don't think it affects the ordinary citizen. It is only the higher cadre of, because they say it's a progressive tax. If you earn higher, you pay. Okay, and so that's
so what you're saying now is you do not think that it affects ordinary citizens?
Not really, especially ordinary citizens who have a regular or let me say a formal means of income. Now, the informal sector, we can say there is a lot that still needs to be done to be protected from multiple taxes. Okay, because for example, we have someone who has a shop in Aba, okay, who have to pay the local government levy to the tax and the state levy and also the federal levy. That connotes a multiple taxation. And I think this new law has actually care of that because we have 4 sub-headings of the tax laws where we have the regulatory framework and the other establishment of institutions that look into these areas to reduce the duplicity of taxes that will be paid. So by and large, what we need to do is to see how the law is being effected, because you can't everything will be smooth on papers until it is being effected. Because you can't test the validity of any product without it being tested. If you have a car, you haven't driven it to like hundreds of kilometers, you won't know the viability or the durability of that vehicle, except it has been driven. Then you can say, okay, I have issues with this or that. And that is where it all boils down to. Let us see when it is being effected, how people react to it, and we can now extract the good and the bad.
I mean, a lot of people are reacting already. Some persons are not in support of the tax law, and also some persons are in support of it. And you made mention, you said the ADC, they are playing politics here.
Yeah, opposition.
The opposition party, they're playing politics.
Yeah, they are playing opposition, which is the job that they are meant to do. They will actually see things that will, let's say, affect the citizens through, rightly or wrongly. They will see, and they might want to amplify it to their own advantage, to be seen as fighting for the masses. Okay? So that is their job.
I mean, a 7-member committee has been established by the House of Representatives at this point to investigate the claims discrepancy. You know, I mean, if you ordered something, because now there is allegations that the presidency has altered the tax law. Okay, bring your evidence. Let's bring ours. Let's compare to see if it's actually the same thing. Then if it's not the same thing, they would see what to do at this point.
Yes.
And I mean, that is what the people are waiting for. That is what we're waiting for. Because this tax actually will be implemented from 1st of January.
Okay, that was what I said from the beginning. I said bring out their proof, their evidence that this has been done. But that January 1st tax implementation date, something in me says it's going to be shifted.
Oh, you think it's not going to work from that day, that it will start the implementation that day?
The government will want to be seen as listening, and they still want to do a lot of work, especially sensitization and everything. Let's be real. Nobody likes paying tax. I pay tax, you understand? So nobody likes, and there is no nation in history that has taxed itself to, its citizen to prosperity. Okay, so it remains a fact that is our government viewing tax as a means of stimulating the economy or just squeezing the citizenry? It remains a point to be seen here. Now there are trust issues too, understandably so. Citizens will want to question, what are you going to use these funds for?
I mean, we are all paying tax. We should know where taxes are going to.
Well, it is something that we still handle with suspicion and a lot of trust deficit, because we've seen that sometimes these tax funds are not used in the proper way, or they are not implemented in the right way. So everybody will question, especially every tax-paying member of the society will want to question. So once this thing is passed, once this law is passed, really, contracts will be awarded. There will be institutions and companies who will form the regulatory agencies and the people that will go out to actually implement the laws, to request for taxes and every other thing. So these are these are issues that still needs to be really looked into, although there is never a good time to implement any policy.
Okay.
A good time to implement any policy. However, I feel the January 1st, well, it makes people ready, but it's also another, let me say, emotional burden on people that now 2026 is here. I have to prepare for taxes that I'm not still sure how it will affect my income. Like I said, it is until these things are implemented that you can now say this is good or bad. Everything on paper until you implement it, until you put it into practice and action.
So do you think at this point that these laws in principle were fair and necessary Nigerians' fiscal future in respective of the controversy?
Well, I have gone through part of the laws, and to be fair, like they said, it's progressive. And increasing the thresholds to 800,000, the first 800,000 will not be taxed, but the subsequent 800,000 will be taxed. It's fair compared to 300,000. I think it's fair. And although I look at the areas where the 30% company, the that have to pay close to 30%, I think that is another area the tax regulatory bodies will have to look into with the companies, because they have the books. They've seen companies earn, and they feel they should pay more. Considering whatever it is, they have more information than we do. So I will not sit here.
Oh, they think we are earning more, so we need to pay more.
I'm not talking about the citizens.
Okay.
I'm talking about the companies.
Okay.
You know, the small SMEs and every other thing, they still have a lot of air to breathe. What I'm talking about are the big companies. The government is aware of their books. They have access to their books, and they feel they can still pay more. And that is why they call it a progressive tax. So if you earn more, you have to pay more. So to be honest, balanced to an extent.
So you're okay with this new tax law policy?
I've never had problem in paying taxes, okay? And it shouldn't be something that will shock me, okay? What I know is that the government needs to balance their books. They need to play it safe in the sense that you understand that people will resist. Resistance is part of development, and they need to handle the resistance with tact and a lot of advocacy, not coming to squeeze the citizens or the companies. Government should view this tax regime as a squeezing act, okay? Because if we squeeze the citizens or the companies more, they will look for informal ways to evade this tax. Okay, as a person, I can't look for ways to evade tax if I see that this thing okay me. And the same thing, companies might reload. So that's why I said the government is aware of the books. And I think no government will want to harm itself. You know, no government will want to deliberately harm itself because they want people to pay more tax. and I said it earlier on, that no government in Israel has ever taxed a citizen to prosperity.
Okay, let's talk about the investor confidence. How might uncertainty around this tax laws affect investors' confidence in this planning? Yes. Now, let's look at the area of investors paying more taxes. Okay. They will actually, if they pay more, and it affects their books, their profits, and their projection, they might have no other option than case. And that was why I said the government should be aware of their books. And I think they are, and they feel increasing it to this ratio or to this trend would not affect them. Okay? And we've seen economies that increase taxes to an extent that they see it as a revenue drive, which affects their productivity, the productivity of their citizens. We can look at Venezuela, we can look at Greece when it's and we can look at Venezuela, Greece. Then we can look on the other side, we look at that have set as a thermostat. We regulate the economies, the economic activities with taxes, and once they see that the citizens or the companies are having issues with the taxes, they actually find a way to reduce the burden, give tax holidays, and find a way to give them incentives so that they won't pay much more taxes. So these are things that the government needs to look at. And investors' confidence, once they see that it is not favorable. Once they see that it is not favoring them, it will be affected. It will be affected, and they might relocate to other economies that give them the safe haven. I mean, we do not want that. So that's why I said I think they got to be aware of all this. And really, they wouldn't sit there and look at companies move out of Nigeria. That is capital flights. Yeah. And it's going to tell on the country GDP and every other thing, because the multiplier effect, jobs will be lost. And the taxes that you're actually looking forward to collect, you won't be able to collect it. But in a situation whereby these things are relaxed, companies come in, they employ more people, the people that they employ pay taxes, and they're able to actually support other members of the society who also in turn find a way to be in the tax net, rather than just suffocating them, and the taxes that we want to collect are actually not even being able to be collected long run. So these are the things that we should be aware of, and they should actually work hand in hand, especially with the lawmakers, which they've set up the committee to look at it holistically and make sure that at the end of the day, it's a win-win condition for both the country and the citizens, and especially the companies too. So you do not really think that the presidency altered the law policy? There is no evidence. Yet. So I won't base my conviction on one-sided statements, especially from AGC, whom I know are also desperate to catch the attention of the citizens and to be seen as fighting for the masses. And that is one of the most easiest way to actually gain attention, to be seen as fighting for the masses, and the masses will want to vibe with your statement and every other thing. Okay, I know we've talked about this AOC stuff. I want us to talk more on it. Is this purely, you mentioned it, an opposition move by the APC, or are there signs of bipartisan concern within the National Assembly? Okay, now it's glaring that it's like a balanced situation. You know what I said? So it's because government needs to be put in check, really. Okay. And those who are at the house, they would have seen or not seen. But we've seen cases in the past where noises were made and nothing came out of it. Okay. We've seen committees being set up and we've not had anything at the end of the day. So these parties, these leaders, or let me say these committees, will find a way to say, let me say, in quote, settle out of court. Okay? So, okay, what is the issue? Okay, let's sit down behind the scene and find a way to
to douse the tension and erase the noise, and we move on. And Nigerians will move on, really, and that is it. So, but the news items will still remain that ADC have raised this, and they will still use it as part of their, let me say, campaign, that at the time they were trying to kill you guys with taxes, we raised voices in support of you guys. So these are things that we should be aware of. So by and large, I think the political aspect of it is much more glaring. This is January 1st, the touted date for the laws to be passed, and we are in December 21st or 22nd. What are the odds that the government will still change anything, a law that has already been passed? What are the odds?
The ADC also, they are calling for suspension. Do you think it's necessary at this point?
Well, like I said, it's all politics, and they are trying to play opposition. Either they suspend it or not, there are no better times to do things. Just find a way to get it done. And like I said, no one likes paying taxes. So once they come, they bring out this issue, people will support them. But it remains, the power still remains with the executive to actually listen or not. Or they want to go ahead with their plans and execute whatever actions they have in their plans or their budget or their manifestos. And that is it. And the irony of this all is that all these tax issues, they are contained in the Renewed Hope manifestos. They are contained there. So they are still part of what they have set out to do in the first place, and they are currently doing it. So there is nothing that I think would suspend the law. Although I've said earlier too that I feel in my mind that the 1st of January might still be reviewed, and the government will say
they would want to postpone it.
They still want to feel the pulse of the citizens, and they want to listen to members of the society and every other advocates of the tax laws. So I think government needs to listen, but the thing right now is that let ADC bring out the proof that this has been altered. Then the citizen can understand them and they say, okay, this is it.
We need to look
yes,
into it.
We need to look into it, but I don't think anything will stop these tax laws from being implemented either January 1st or any other time. It's still going to be done.
So all the taxes that Nigerians have been paying, you and I have been paying, have you been seeing the works in the country?
Well, we can't have every information at our disposal. And I don't want to play government's advocate, okay? But let's look at an area of education, the area of education, right? You know, especially government institutions, the amount of money we pay in this country to get higher education is not as much as we think that we are paying. We all see our cousins, brothers, sisters go outside of this country. We see what they pay to acquire BSc that we acquire with we just breeze through school, especially financially, and we pay those amounts. But we know the amount of money that is needed. So in one way, those taxes are still working in the area of education, even though we still have a lot of areas to improve. Nigeria is so dynamic. It's so dynamic that you can switch to one side and another side keeps calling you. We look at the areas of security and every other area.
I literally wanted to mention that.
Look at the area of security and every other thing. We are literally looking at the area of economy and say, okay, things are coming down or getting balanced or normalized. Then on the other side, we look at the area of the security issue just came in and we are here. Now, the question of are we seeing it? Yes, we are seeing in some areas, and in some areas we are not seeing it.
Okay, I want you to quickly tell me what practical steps at this moment can the government take now to restore confidence? A public audit, legislative clarification, or open hearings?
I think they can combine everything.
All of them.
They can combine everything because they've been doing some. Okay, like 2 weeks ago, we had the Taiwo Oyedele, the tax guy that's on Twitter. They were calling on the influencers. I mean, for people to vote. Influencers that have spoken about these tax laws more audibly, and people have been able to, and they are recruiting them to be able to amplify this message once more and to see how people will embrace the message of tax. And that is one advocacy. It's a way of, and we see people who rejected that offer, and we see people who are still saying they want to go ahead to make sure that they enlighten the public and do what it is that they want to do. Like I said, we don't like paying taxes. Okay.
We don't like paying taxes, but we pay.
We have to pay. Even in any other country too, they complain about the taxes that the government collects from them. Okay, and let's face it, Nigeria's tax net, no matter how wide it is, we have less than, according to what we have less than 5% of the people still paying these taxes. So we have people carrying the burden of over millions of people. Okay. So this thing needs to be, there is need for equalization, for more people to come in and they pay, right? Once they are legally liable to pay, not evading that tax and just shortchanging us.
All right, thank you so much, Mohammed Kabiru, for your time, for helping us analyze this topic.
Thank you very much.
Okay, the ADC is actually accusing the presidency of altering the new tax policy laws. And the president has dismissed claims saying he did not alter or change the laws, that it is how the National Assembly, brought out the law, passed the law. That is how it is, that he did not alter the law. Let's keep our fingers crossed till January 1st and see what would happen. Thank you so much once again for joining.
Thank you very much.
Thank you all Nigerians for joining our Lagos Network studio this beautiful morning on CMI. Merry Christmas in advance, and do stay while we join our Benin Network studio for the continuation on CMI. I am Restelina Unkoa. Do stay with us.
The man went out to bring in thugs to come and beat her.
Yeah.
In a situation like that, do you think women would have seen that and still want to speak?
Really, we're talking
That's
about...
what I said. So
that's...
when they bullied her, if she's not bold enough, she will shut up.
What is your advice for girls out there that are so desperate to be married?
We women, we have to be really intentional about our parenting.
If you know a child is being abused, or you see signs, a bruise or a child, it has to be investigated.
People barely even breathe when they are going for a shwebi and something.
Party.
You have to be
They
smart.
can't sit
If
down.
you see where they are dressing them up and dragging on both sides, you cannot breathe. And these women will stay in those events for hours just to keep up with that beauty trend.
Is that healthy?
That's not healthy.
I am Patricia Uremu-Gabriels, and we're reaching you live from our Lagos Network studio. Of course, Women in Conversation is a program designed for women to discuss about themselves.
Good morning and welcome to ITV News Updates. I am Chukwufumnanya Digwe. Now, the Oba of Benin, His Royal Majesty Omonobanedu Ukwakolopolo, Oba Ewari II, has celebrated the Ugie Mubo in continuation of the 2025 annual Ugie. Ikpongwosa Ogiagbe reports that the annual Ugie marks the end of the Benin calendar year.
Ugemobo, a ceremony to ward off evil from the land, is in commemoration of the final defeat of the Benin giant Prince Idubo, popularly known as Arouan, who dwelled in Udo in the modern day Ovia Southwest local government area in a contest between him and Prince Osawe, who later ascended the throne as Oba Esige that reigned in Benin centuries ago. The palace of the Oba of Benin was agog with festivities as members of Ifiento and Isieneo, the Benin traditional warriors, performed their roles to the delight of members of the royal family and guests. Ogbelaka group exhibited what they are known for, beating the drums and singing, as the Obazelu of Benin, Chief Osaro Ida, exhibited dance dexterity to the admiration of chiefs and others. The Benin monarch, Oba Ewa II, performed the Emobo dance and proceeded to Eduendo Shrine to pray for peace and progress of Benin Kingdom, Edo State, and Nigeria at large. From the palace of the Oba of Benin, Ikpongwosa Ogiagbe, ITV News.
Now, in Christian faith, Thanksgiving remains a moment to return all glory to God for His grace and guidance, especially at significant milestones in life. The spirit of gratitude was evident on Sunday as family, friends, and well-wishers converged on St. Gabriel the Archangel Catholic Church, Sapele Road, Benin City, for the Thanksgiving service and convalidation of the traditional marriage of Osai Izeyamu and Hayford Idwari Ekeme. Donald Amie reports.
It was a service filled with praise and thanksgiving at St. Gabriel the Archangel Catholic Church, Sapele Road, Benin City, as Osai Izeyamu, daughter of former Secretary to the Edo State Government, Pastor Saje Izeyamu, and Hayford Idwari, son of renowned politician Honorable Matthew Idwari, offered gratitude to God following the convalidation of their traditional marriage. The solemn ceremony, which coincided with the fourth Sunday of Advent, was officiated by the parish priest, Reverend Father Jerome Idebe. In his homily, Reverend Father Palmer Ikpongwosa urged parishioners to look beyond present challenges, trust in God's divine help, and remain hopeful as they prepare their hearts for the coming of Christ.
Jesus told us to look beyond this situation, and that is our calling. That we must look beyond this situation. If you look beyond this time, next time the devil will trouble. There are troubles, there are some people, Christ is calling that you're recording this man. Just as
Prayers were later offered for the couple, committing their union, home and future into the hands of God. The event attracted dignitaries from across Edo State, including a parishioner, the Esama of Benin, and Honorable Council to Edo and Delta States, Sachi Dr. Gabriel Sawari Ibenedion, who wished the couple well in their marriage.
The wedding of the century, not of the year. They emptied the wall. I think that who attended the wedding. What a sign of glory. What a sign of stability. I'm so grateful to the family that they did it cannibally and they emptied the wall of the personality that came.
Parents of the couple expressed gratitude to God and offer words of encouragement and prayers for a peaceful, loving, and enduring marriage.
I pray that this path that he has chosen, God should develop him on it, build him up, and he should continue to focus, like the priest said during the homily. It's not by mass making. All these things are God's workings. The end of our successes should be the foundation of their own.
The high point of the Mass was the presentation of an award to the parish priest of St. Gabriel, the Archangel Catholic Church, Reverend Father Jerome Idebe. From Benin, Donald Ehiminyeng, ITV News.
In another report, Christians have been asked to see Christmas as not a season of merriment, but reflection on the gift of the Lord Jesus Christ to humanity and brought salvation to mankind. Osamuyi Ogbomo reports that the officiating minister at the 2025 God's Historic Church's Festival of 9 Lessons and Carols, Reverend Osamujame Afe, handed down the admonition. The report is presented by Osemujame Osaige.
Some prominent members of the church, including Chief Elder Osaitin Inadegi, took the first lesson, while Elder Mrs. Uwadiai took second lesson, as Deacon Okudili Agbaso took the third lesson. Mrs. Agbaso read the fourth lesson, while the Executive Director Operations, ITV and Radio, Chief Elder Ogbedi Uwose, took the fifth lesson, as Deacon Jeff Ideye read the sixth lesson. Elder Tony Obasaki took the seventh lesson, and Christian Anyanru read the eighth lesson, as Lady Vivian Usayande took the ninth lesson.
And when they were come into the house, they saw the young child with Mary, his mother, and fell down and worshipped him.
For unto us a child is born, unto us a son is given.
The resident pastor of the church, Reverend Osamujame Afe, said the season is a period that has been chosen to celebrate Jesus Christ for fulfilling God's divine benevolence on mankind.
God sent forth his son, made of a woman, made under the law. Verse 5. To redeem them that were under the law, that we might receive adoption of sons. So the purpose of Christmas, God wants to redeem you back to himself.
High point of the 2025 God's Historic Church Festival of 9 Lessons and Carols was the grand appearance of Santa Claus, who came with loads of gifts. From Benin, Osemdeme Usagi, ITV News.
Now, the National Agency for Food and Drugs Administration and Control, NAFDAC, has issued a public alert over the recall of Indomie vegetable flavor noodles following the discovery of undeclared milk and eggs allergens, which pose serious health risks to consumers with allergies or intolerances. Announcing the recall in a public alert, the agency disclosed that the recall notice was issued by Rapport Conso of France, the French Food Safety Authority, after laboratory findings confirmed the presence of allergens not listed on the product label. NAFDAC said the recall affects all batches of the Indomie vegetable flavor noodles with a best before date of February 6, 2026, even as the country of origin was not stated in the recall notice. The agency observed that the product is a popular household food across many countries due to affordability, convenience, and versatility. However, it warned that the presence of undeclared milk and egg components could trigger severe allergic reactions in vulnerable consumers. In another report, former presidential candidate of the Labour Party, Peter Obi, has accused the federal government of allegedly overseeing the fabrication of laws following the 2026 national budget presentation. In a statement titled, "Migrating from Padded Budgets to Forged Laws," posted on his X handle on Saturday, Obi warned that the move endangers constitutional governance and erodes public trust. Obi alleged that there were discrepancies between documents passed by the National Assembly and those eventually published and enforced by the executive. According to him, the country's national shame continues to unfold, evident in the decisions made by leaders, even at the highest levels of government. President Bola Tinubu on Friday presented the 2026 budget proposal before the joint session of the National Assembly. With that report, we've come to the end of ITV News Updates. I am Chukwufumnanya Digwe. Thank you for watching. Good morning.
certainly the best.
Good morning and welcome. This is TMI Socials. I am Chukufumnanya Digwe, and here's what's making waves across the social media space. Now, we begin with a security-based story as Nigeria frees last 130 school children abducted from St. Mary's School. Nigerian authorities announced the release of the remaining 130 school children and staff kidnapped on November 21 from St. Mary's Catholic School in Papiri, Niger State, following a military intelligence operation. Now, this completes the rescue of all 230 captives after 50 escaped during the raid and 100 were freed earlier this month. Officials denied any ransom was paid, crediting security forces, while the children head for medical checks and family reunions in Minna amid national relief over child safety concerns. Now, a lot of people are reacting to this particular story on social media. Finally, the last 130 adoptees have been released. Now, let's see how the social media space is reacting. This first reaction says, how much was paid to secure their release? Where are the terrorists now? Did Nigeria teach them a serious lesson? How many were killed? So many questions from Nefertiti. Now let's see this next comment. The comment says, mass kidnappings in Niger State have become a cycle of trauma and PR managed returns. By failing to mention any neutralized threats or arrests in the Papari operation, the presidency inadvertently credits the kindness of terrorists for the freedom of our children. Let's see another comment. This commenter says, kudos to President Bola Ahmed Tinubu for his serious commitment to tackling security challenges. Lately, the government has been putting in real work to end kidnapping and banditry once and for all. That's cheering news for that commenter. Let's see what this one has to say. Goes along to say, it's good to know they are free at last. Many questions are on the lips of Nigerians. Why hasn't the federal government arrested the Islamic terrorists responsible for the kidnappings? Was ransom paid? Where were they kept for weeks? Who caused the security breach? Still again, a lot of questions. Let's take the final comment. Well, that's a wrap for comments on that particular story. Now, the second story. The ICPC has summoned Dangote over corruption petition against ex-oil regulator. Now, the ICPC has called Dangote to appear tomorrow, December 22, or send his lawyer to substantiate a petition accusing Farouk Ahmed, ex-head of the NMDPRA, of living beyond his means with $7 million spent on his children's Swiss schooling and sabotaging local refining through import licenses. This follows months of disputes between Dangote Refinery and regulators over fuel standards and policies favoring imports despite Nigeria's energy self-sufficiency goals. Ahmed resigned on December 17 after seeing President Tinubu, but the probe continues. Reactions online show praise for accountability alongside questions about treatment of elites versus ordinary citizens. Now, these are allegations by the CEO of the Dangote Group on this regulator, Ahmed Farouk, which did then follow his resignation and, of course, his replacement by the president. And now, the ICPC has come in to question the Dangote CEO, to ask him to validify these claims by him. Let's see how the social media space is reacting. The first comment says, a fair process is what matters here. These are serious allegations, but they remain unproven until evidence is presented and independently verified by the ICPC. Let's see another comment now. The next comment goes along to say, it's wrong for the ICPC to invite Haji Aliko Dangote to provide evidence to substantiate his petition against Farouk Ahmed. It suffices for Aliko Dangote to go to ICPC office and make a formal statement. The next stage is for the ICPC detectives to investigate. Let's see another comment. This next commenter says, in Nigeria, it is a known fact that moments heated and serious allegations are made against government or POIs is a panel is set up. This only creates an ambience of eye service. I can promise you that they'll help this case to linger so long that you'll forget about it. Let's see another comment now. This commenter says, Farouk Ahmed served Nigeria honorably for decades, pushing reforms that challenged entrenched import cartels and laid groundwork for genuine deregulation. He deserves vindication, not vilification. Let the evidence speak, and may justice prevail over money and influence. The final comments now. This commenter says, if Dangote cannot provide evidence, he must go to jail for lying to all of us. Personally, I don't believe there's a secondary school not in England, not in France or Germany, and not Cambridge or Oxford universities that cost $7 million. I live in England and I know what I'm talking about. Dangote must go to jail for destroying somebody's name. Personally, I don't think Dangote has the evidence. The picture he posted is not evidence. I can design and print that evidence. Well, those are the comments as regards this particular story. And here's where we draw the curtain on TMI Socials today. Thank you so much for being a part of the program. Have yourself a wonderful morning. Bye-bye.
it's time to say our bye-byes on the show. Lovely Mother Morning. It's been an exciting time on TMI on the ITV network. But just something that I saw, I mean, you read that news this morning about the NAFDAC issuing a public alert over the recall of Indomie vegetable flavor noodles following the discovery of undeclared milk and eggs allergens, which pose serious health risks to consumers with allergies or intolerances. But I think what got my attention in this story has to do with where it came from. In announcing the public alert and the recall, the agency disclosed that the recall notice was issued by Rapport Consul of France, the French Food Safety Authority, after laboratory findings confirmed the presence of the allergens not listed on the product label.
Meaning they do checks on these products beyond what is declared by the organization, which is a kudos to that regulator, and it's something that our own regulators can also learn from.
I'm particularly bothered by the fact that there's growing concerns and growing incidences of terminal illness, deadly diseases as a result of processed foods that we consume.
One that's not so far-fetched, there's a rise in cancer right now.
There's a rise in cancer, there's a rise in tumor, there's a rise in diabetes, and many of these terminal diseases, and these are the result of processed foods. We can talk about beverages, we can talk about foods like the noodles categories, talk about, you know, all of these things. So my concern here is that if it wasn't for Rapport Consul, whatever the name is, in France, that this laboratory analysis, probably this wouldn't have come out. And so the onus is on our regulators to rise up to the occasion and make sure that what we consume, they are checked every now and then, so we can have healthy foods. Today we're talking about the need for people to go back to organic foods.
Everything is packaged these days.
Yes.
Even what you'd say is natural. The vegetables, the lettuce, the greens, everything is packaged. You go to the supermarket, you see them in packaging.
Yes.
And you wonder, this is not supposed to be fresh
produce. Food, yes.
So yes.
It's a big problem that should attract everybody's attention. We must commend NAFDAC for taking the bull by the horn to make this information to be available for the public so people can take action and protect themselves, especially this season where we're going to be eating and drinking. All sorts of things are there in the market space. I mean, I saw a video recently where someone will bring dyes to color palm oil to make it reddish, right? That's the height of madness. That's the height of wickedness, because you are wondering why we're having children going down with cancer, why people are going down with all kinds of terminal diseases and illnesses. You're wondering where this is coming from. Dyes are known to be carcinogens. They are carcinogenic, which means they easily cause cancer because of the chemical components of these dyes. What people do, they'll buy these dyes, mix it, and they add it to the oil.
For little gains.
Yes, now you take it, you go to the market, so oil is supposed to be reddish. Oil is not reddish, it's orange in color. You just see it attractive and appealing, you buy.
It's the same thing. That's what we'll say now.
Anyway, that's our party shot on the show today. Hope you had a great time with us. And please be safe what you eat, what you drink this season, so that after the festivities, you don't end up as a carcass. You don't end up in the hospital with one terminal disease or the other. That's our package today from Chukwufunanya.
It's been a great time. A wonderful morning to you, Dr. Sunny.
I'm sure the next Monday we're going to be together on TMI to be after the Christmas, so we're saying Merry Christmas in advance.